Okay, so you're from the Columbus area. Talk a little bit about your introduction into percussion or marching percussion, or how you started down that path.
Okay. Well, for me, I was kind of raised around music. Um, my mom is the biggest reason for that. She's a very talented musician. She was actually a really great clarinet player. So as a little kid, she was still playing. So I kind of just grew up around music. She played piano and uh, just a handful of other instruments. So I grew up around music. But for me, it was always drums. That was always the thing I wanted to do. She bought me a drum set for my first birthday. Just one of those like little play school ones, and I would just beat the trash out of it. Um, then I started taking private lessons, percussion, in fourth grade from a guy named Jim Galt, um, he was the high school instructor in Hilliard where I grew up, and started in fourth grade. And then my school district, we started band in fifth, so I auditioned for band, got in, and from there on out I was just doing percussion. But um, drum set was my first love. That's what I wanted to play. That's all I wanted to do was play drum set. So I remember in sixth grade, I went out and I bought Nirvana's Nevermind album on cassette tape.
What year was that?
Oh, I want to say it was around '93.
Nice.
Um, but my mom bought me my first drum set that same year, and I sat down and I played the entire album, and I learned how to play every single song on that album. It was on cassette tape, so you didn't really get to go back and listen to little pieces of it. I just went one song after the next and just memorized them, tried to figure stuff out. And so I was always into music, and I was into drum set big time. And then kind of worked my way up band. I was pretty good. I was always in the top bands in middle school, and then auditioned for my high school drum line, and made the snare line for my freshman year, and kind of took off from there. Drumline was kind of getting into marching percussion was kind of the merger of two worlds for me. Like I was always very into music, and I liked performing music and learning about music and all that stuff. And then I played a lot of sports growing up, so I always had this very competitive side of my life, and drumline kind of merged those two together. It kind of merged the competition side with the music side, and that's kind of when I like fell in love with it. And then
What sports did you play?
oh God, I played baseball. I wrestled. I played football, basketball, hockey. I played as many sports as I could. Once I got in high school, I had to kind of narrow that down. I couldn't just play them all, but drumline kind of filled in for that. I liked the competition part of it, and I was very lucky in high school. Like I figured out that I liked the drumline activity. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to that first day of drumline auditions. I was a pretty good snare drummer. But I had a really, really great instructor named John Merritt who, I was very lucky to have him as an instructor, and he showed us the right way to do things right from the beginning. He had a drum corps background, and he marched limited edition in the late 80s, I think up till 91, and then he marched cadets 91, 2, and 3. He was a section leader of the snare line in 93. So he obviously knew that side of it really, really well, and he really pushed us, and I kind of just fell in love with it. And then from that point, it was just what was next, what was the next level that I could get to. So then I ended up marching. My sophomore year, I tried out for an independent world group called Trinity. They're not around anymore. I made it.
Based out of Columbus.
Based out of Columbus, yeah. Everybody kind of knows Rhythm X as the Columbus group. There was two groups before that. Trinity was right before it, and then there was a group, Capital Regiment, who ended up being a drum corps but started as an indoor line. So I marched in Trinity. That was in 2000, and that rocked my world, big time. I was a good high school snare drummer. I was good enough to make an independent world line, but that was where I figured out a lot about how to be in a great drum line. And I mainly learned that because I learned very quickly all the things that I was doing wrong, right. Which was okay, but it was a little bit of culture shock. Because the 2 summers before that, I got exposed to drum corps, and I saw drum corps for the first time. And because of the guys that taught me in high school, John Merritt and a guy named Eric Ward, they all worked with cadets. So they marched with cadets and worked with cadets. I kind of grew up idolizing cadets, and then there were guys in cadets that were in Trinity, and oh my God, they scared me to death. And they were just machines. There was two. There was a quad player named Jared, and then a bass drummer. They called him Deacon. I still don't know what his real name is.
Maybe he'll see this. And he'll get in touch with me.
Maybe. But man, like watching those guys, they never stopped. They operated like machines, and I just never seen anything like that. They were just, in my eyes, like they did everything perfect. Like they marched perfect, they played perfect, they could play things that I couldn't play, which was really intimidating. But that was also like that kind of lit the fire for me. So I got into drumline my freshman year, and I really enjoyed it. I was very lucky. I went to a very good high school program. Then I got exposed to Trinity, and I started getting to experience some drum corps guys, and that kind of relit the fire again. Boy, they just dragged me through the mud that whole year, in a lot of good ways and some really tough ways. But seeing those guys that had marched drum corps, I mean, that was the like what's next for me. For me, it's always kind of been about what's the next level, and seeing those guys, how they operated in the ensemble and how they marched, and I mean, they were machines, and I wanted to do that. So then that pushed me into the next levels.
So what was your, you idolized cadets. Where was your first drum corps audition?
Glassman.
What year?
This would have been for the 2002 season.
And you were still in high school then?
That was my senior year of high school.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was.
So how was that? What was that experience like?
Well, it was really great. It was really scary. A lot of the guys that were in that drumline I had known or knew about them. A lot of them were from Columbus, like Andrew. I knew Andrew because
Andrew Markworth.
Yeah, because my high school competed with Centerville the winter before that, and that was his first year at Glassman. That audition experience was very interesting. It was scary, the best way to put it, just because everybody was so good. So that was a very eye-opening experience, and I learned that I wasn't ready for it. Mostly mentally, I wasn't ready for it. Physically, I felt like I could handle a lot of the stuff, but mentally, I wasn't ready for it.
And then, so when was your first summer marching?
In 2004, I went and I got a spot at Carolina Crown.
And what brought you there?
Jared Thomas.
Jared Thomas brought you to Crown.
Yeah, I marched with Jared at Rhythm X, and he just kept telling me to come down to Crown. And I finally did. I didn't go down there. I want to say my first camp was maybe January, February.
It was late.
Yeah, I was late. They gave me a shot. I went down there, and I had to audition with Jeff Queen, and that was a scary experience. You walk into a practice room, and Jeff Queen's sitting there, and he just says, "All right, play this."
So what did he have you play in those individuals?
He had me play the Flam Interp Breakdown,
Okay.
and that was the first time I'd ever tried it, and I bagged it. It was so bad. I mean, it was fine. It just, like, I didn't achieve the purpose of the exercise. I didn't know how to play wide flams and then go right into popped flam. I didn't. That was not a skill I'd ever worked on. I just tried to play good flams. So
Right.
I learned that I couldn't play grace notes very well, and now I can because of that experience. He had me play the same concept with tap fives also. So you play a bar of normal tap five, triple tap fives, and then you make them fivelets.
Slur 'em, open
So you slur them, and then you go back to normal tap fives, then you play 16th version, and then you go back to normal fives. I bombed that too. But that summer was very, very educational. Being able to have like Jeff Queen right there every day was that was an experience that I don't think you can get very many places. Learn from a guy that's that good at snare drumming. That was the summer that I learned the most about myself as far as a player. Like when I left that summer, I felt really confident about what I could do on a snare drum. I always knew I could be in a drum line. I could play clean. I could do all that stuff. I thought I was pretty good at it. That was the summer that I felt like I became a really good individual player. Just the concepts that he kind of threw at us were awesome. And Paul Rennick was still working with Crown kind of part-time then, so he would come on tour, and we get to work with him. And like that experience was really, really awesome. It was a different, it was like a different family of teaching. I was pretty confident. Like I was kind of learned in like the cadet style. Everything was height based, and technique was defined one way, heights were defined one way. And then when I went to March Crown, it was very opposite. It was we didn't really talk heights at all. We talked music markings, and neither one is right or wrong. It's just different. And then, it was kind of cool that at Crown, for me, I had to take a lot of the almost robotic nature to how I played and how I thought about things and become more musical. And then,
And was that more Jeff's doing, or was that more Paul's doing?
both. It was kind of both. Jeff learned from Paul, went to UNT, so it was all this. It was the same family, but it was just cool to get that different perspective from one style to the other, and then eventually now I kind of teach a hybrid. Like I took little things that I liked from these and little things I like this, and kind of put it together and made it something that I think works really well.
Yeah. So going into that summer, the first summer you marched, what did you feel the most unprepared for?
Spring training.
Yeah.
I had played a lot of sports, so I wasn't in too terrible a shape. It was the mental stuff, like eventually your body kind of gets used to it. You get through that first week and a half, and then your body kind of gets used to the daily grind. But it's the mental grind. Being able to wake up every day with I call it like a winning attitude, like being able to like not just go through the motions on day 10.
Yeah.
That was really tough. That was the biggest hurdle for me, was being able to show up every day and be mentally ready to improve and be kind of mentally ready to win that day. Because it's very easy spring training. I mean, what it's like that 10th day or whatever day, honestly, you wake up and you're tired. The last thing you want to do is be out in the hot sun.
Sure.
Just getting your butt kicked all day.
So what do you feel like you do to counteract that?
For me, it was find your little personal vices and little things that you do, your little rituals that kind of get you ready. For me, it was always put music in my ears. I'd go out to block and I'd have, back then CD players. I'd have my headphones in and I'd be listening to music that would kind of get me energized. Like going to the gym, if you're going to go lift heavy weight. You got to do stuff to get your mind mentally ready to go do that. So whatever those rituals were, for me, it was putting loud, aggressive music in my ears. That would get me ready to go for the block. I would do this opposite at the end of the day. The day would end and the block would end. Then I would have like super calm, almost like meditative music to put on. That was always a big one. Music was always the thing that could control my emotions the most.
That's a good point. So then go back to your high school self when you're auditioning for camps. If you could give high school Josh Brickey one piece of advice, what would it be?
Be prepared for the mental part of it. Everybody kind of sees drum corps and they want to do it, but they see the shows and they see finals, and that's 2% of it.
Yeah. Maybe
less than that. They don't tell you. You don't get to witness the other parts of it. Where, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's physically and mentally, it's brutal, and all in a good way. It's not it's not destructive in any way. It's really it challenges you as a person, and it's not for everybody. My first attempt at drum corps, it wasn't for me. I wasn't in a mental place that I could handle it. But later it was, and I was good to go. So, it's a good idea if you want to go march drum corps. Go check out rehearsal. Go watch the daily grind that's happening.
Yeah, see what it's actually like.
It's not just shows. Shows are fun, but that's not all of it. You gotta go witness the rest of it. Definitely. So that's something that I would have done. I would have convinced myself that it wasn't just finals night.
Yeah. Okay, so then now you're not performing, you're teaching now. Right. When you're at Crossman Rhythm X, when you're running those audition camps, let's talk about audition camps first. What do you feel like the most consistent thing that people who are auditioning are unprepared on?
The most consistent thing that people are unprepared on is preparation, in my opinion. There are too many people that show up to a camp and they haven't done the research. Now, when I say you're being prepared for camp, I don't just mean I can play through the exercises. That's obviously something that you should be able to do. I think it's more of all the extra stuff. Who are the people in the drum line? Have you tried to get to know them before auditions? Are you familiar with our terminology? Is the packet memorized? That's a big one. A lot of people know the packet as long as the music's open and in front of them. But that doesn't, and a lot of people will make the argument, well, if it's whether it's memorized or I can play it with the music in front of me. Like you're still watching me play. When your music's memorized, that puts you in a comfort level that you all of a sudden you kind of emote this different person. You're able to stand and be a part of the ensemble. Your awareness goes from this little piece of paper goes to what is everybody doing around me, and that immediately improves your chance of making the drum line, because you're able to pick up on what the people that have been in the group before are doing. Or if I teach a lot with hand signals. I do a lot of just hand stuff to try to give information. And if you're locked into this piece of paper, I'm giving hand signals. Normally those are the people that miss it. Or the classic like last time hand wave. Those are normally the people that miss that instruction. So everybody can improve their chances of making any drum line by understanding that preparation is not just learning the music on the page. It's other stuff you have to be prepared for as well, and really be prepared mentally to be in that environment and be successful with other people around you that are potentially better than you are. How do you compete with those people? So being more prepared is always a great thing. For me, it was always, I liked people that kind of do their research. Like, if you're the center snare at Rhythm X and I'm going to audition for Rhythm X, I'm going to try to get in touch with you. I want you to know who I am before I walk through the door.
It is something that a lot of people are definitely nervous to do.
And of course, like I talked about those guys that were in Trinity, that March Cadets, I was terrified of them. But I eventually learned that like they were a resource for me. Like watching them and getting to know them, I wish I would have tried to get to know them before. Obviously, that was like, before the days of Facebook and whatever. But, I ended up meeting those people, and even though they could have marched me under the table and played me under the table, like they ended up being a big reason why I am where I am today, because I just watched them. I said, I want to do that.
Right. So then outside of the packet, at the audition, can you shed some light on what you tend to do at an audition?
Yes. For me, at a place like Rhythm X, or Crossman, Rhythm X and Crossman, I kind of approach it the same way. We're going to challenge you as a player. We want to challenge you as a performer, and we want to challenge you as a person. So that's kind of a three-tiered thing for us. So as a player, that's the packet, that's the heights, that's having you play individually, that's having you play things that, variations of the exercise packet that maybe we didn't write down in the packet. That's challenging you as a player. Challenging you as a performer is we'll do a visual audition. We'll talk a lot about standing with confidence, good posture, who can do that naturally. People that don't do it naturally, once we explain it to you, who can pick it up and kind of make it a very natural thing for them to do. And then for challenging you as a person, we like to, it's all high pressure. A group at that level, we kind of want to find everybody's breaking point. And a lot of times it's almost like a sabotage approach, in a sense that we will purposely come up with things that we know that nobody can do. We'll try to come up with variations. At Rhythm X, those are some of the most talented snare drummers in the world. I try to get you guys to do things that I know that you can't do. Right. I know that none of the vets can do, and it's not because I'm looking for people to fail or break or whatever. It's more of I like to see their thought process happen. I like to see, okay, I can't do this. What's the smart thing to do? How do I survive this? Can I pick up on this? And you start to see a lot of players. You can see them try to figure it out, and then eventually the ones that end up making the line are normally the ones that have an organized thought process that they start to figure it out. But a lot of times, with those really extreme cases, like nobody can do it. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure the staff could do it either. Yeah. We just want to see how you start to figure it out. And then we know, because if you can live in that situation, you can be successful in that situation, then I know that anything that we throw at you throughout the season, you're going to be able to survive. You're going to be able to pick it up, process the information, stay calm. You see a lot of players when they get those moments where they're uncomfortable, they panic. Their hands freak out. They panic. You can see it in their faces. You can see it in their posture. And then you see other people that are making the same number of mistakes as the other person, but you see them staying calm. And all of a sudden, like that mistake ratio, the number of mistakes for one person who's calm goes down. Right. The person who's panicking and not controlling themselves, the numbers go up.
Right. So then in terms of preparation, a large part of the audition is playing something that you don't know you're going to play. So how do you, and simultaneously, you have to do it in front of people who intimidate you or that you look up to, and I think that's why so much pressure can be put on someone who's auditioning. So how does someone go about replicating that at home?
What I tried to do when I was younger, I wanted to be able to play everything. So if I learned a concept, like I'll never forget when I learned the 4-2-1 triple grid, just playing the normal accents of it. And then I kind of, somebody told me like, hey, you can put rudiments in these, and then I would like, it would blow my mind. I didn't know what anybody was talking about, but then I tried to figure it out, and I would go home and some variations it took me a long time. I mean, it would take me weeks to get through them, but I wanted to be able to do everything. That way that if I went to an audition and somebody said, we're going to play this, I would be able to either be able to play it because I've prepared on it, I've challenged myself before an audition, or I'd at least have some skill sets in place that I could be able to start to process that information. Because a lot of it, I mean, there's no way to know everything. There's no way to know how to play every rudiment or every variation of a rudiment. There's no way, but you can start to put a kind of, I think of it almost a playing resume. The longer you can make your playing resume, the more prepared you're going to be for the job.
Sure.
So if I knew that if I could throw some flam rudiments to somebody, and I knew it was a variation that not many people knew, but you did take time on gridding flam drags and cheeses and fives and doing it forward and backwards, you'd be able to put together the thought process to pick it up faster. So and I guess in layman's terms, just try to play, learn how to play everything. If you can play everything,
decreases the chances that something new is going to be thrown at you. Right. So then how about like nerves? So that, I think that's something that everyone experiences for sure at an audition camp. And obviously you can't, get the caption head of your drumline to come to your basement and, watch you grid flam accents. So what is the best way to go about recreating that? Or maybe what preparation do you need to take going into the camp to make yourself remain as calm as possible?
Well, as far as like what you can do to prepare yourself, I'm not sure there's much you can do. I always tell people the best thing you can do is find the environment that you're uncomfortable with and live in that environment. So if playing individually is uncomfortable for you, you need to find individuals to play for every day. And it could be anybody. It could be somebody that knows what they're talking about. It could be somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about. It could be, hey, I'm auditioning for Rhythm X. I'm going to become friends with Ryan Ellis. Can I send you a video?
Sure.
And just make sure that video you send is like one rep deal. It's like a live audition, See how that goes. Another thing I tell people that really struggle with nerves is, one thing you have to understand is that everybody struggles with nerves. Everybody gets nervous.
Sure.
Just how you handle those nerves is the difference between people that can survive that environment or they get eaten alive with it. So kind of goes back to like what I was talking about with how I would manage myself in drum corps days with, finding music that got me in the right mindset. You can do the same sort of vices, same sort of things to get yourself ready to play individually. Whether it's like, I'm going to, because once you leave the room and you're going to your individual audition, you normally wait in a hallway or something. What you do during that time, no one cares, right? So bring some headphones, put some music in, stay calm. Do some meditative breathing. Do something that's going to put your brain in a mindset that you can go have a great audition.
Right.
But players that really struggle with their nerves, they always ask, they normally ask the same question, like, how do I, I just don't know why do I get nervous? Why do I get nervous? Well, everybody gets nervous.
Right, yeah, it's reasonable why you get nervous.
Right, it's just you have to figure out, you have to spend some time in that environment to figure out how to manage it. You're never going to get the nerves to go away. You get comfortable with being nervous.
Sure.
And you learn how to be successful.
Yeah. Okay, so last question. What is the number one piece of information that you would give to anyone auditioning at any drum corps or indoor drumline for the upcoming season?
One thing.
One thing.
Do your research. Get to know whatever drum corps it's going to be. If you're going to come audition at Crossman, I don't mind people sending me questions about what to expect. Like normally people think that that's something you don't do.
Right.
I prefer, every drum corps wants as many talented and prepared auditionees in the room as possible. That's only going to make Crossman better.
Right.
So if you want to ask me questions or you want to ask a staff member questions, I encourage you to do that so that you have any leg up that you have on information or a process that is very unique to that particular drum line or whatever it is. The more you know about that, the more prepared you're going to be, and that's going to increase your chances of making the drum line. So a lot of it comes back to just don't live in your shell before auditions. Get to know people, ask questions, watch videos. Nowadays with everything's on YouTube. When I marched, nothing was on YouTube.
Right.
Like I couldn't go watch 1998 Santa Clara Vanguard rehearse. I can do that now.
Right.
You know, like what an advantage that would have been if I would have been able to go to a drum corps like that and know what it's like. You know, that would have been a big help. So I would do your research. Do your research and be prepared. And again, preparation does not just mean I can play through the sheet music with the sheet music in front of me. What's the height on measure 92? If you don't know that answer, you're not prepared. You know, will they ask that question in auditions? Probably not. Maybe not. I don't know. It depends on where you go. But if you know that information, imagine how easy the other information is going to be.
Right.
Like when this crescendo starts, when whatever it is. I mean, if you can tell me what the stick height is on the and of 4 on measure 92, you probably know what the measure is at letter A. You probably know what the height, the dynamic is at the measure A, or whatever that is. So being prepared isn't just knowing the music on the page. It's so much more than that. So do your research and be prepared.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for being here. Your experience and wealth of knowledge is greatly appreciated. I'm sure a lot of people get a lot out of this, so thanks a lot.
Thank you.